Welcome to Cooking with Dragons. My name is Rourke. Today I'm making a fancy dish. It's a dessert. It's called the Floating Island, also called Île Flottante, or the Floating Island. This recipe was suggested to me by my friend known as Semblance, so I'm going to go ahead and try to make it. So this recipe looks intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple. All you really need is 3 egg whites, which I'm going to make from those 3 eggs, as well as 3 egg yolks. So you can separate those and you'll have what you need. And then, see, for the caramel, I'm going with 50 grams. So you can go with 50 grams or 1.8 ounces of sugar. I'm going with palm sugar just to have an interesting take on the caramel. I also have regular sugar for the cream and glaze, as well as the egg white portions, just so that it's easier for the stuff to incorporate. But the palm sugar is totally optional. You can go with regular sugar if you would like. I just wanted to see how that works in caramel. So I'm going to be smashing that up a little bit, and then yeah. And then, see, for the cream and glaze, you need that, like I said, the egg yolks, as well as 30 grams of sugar, or 1 ounce of sugar. That's that right here. And you need about 300 milligrams of milk, or 10 ounces of milk. So we gotta bring the milk to a boil, and then we gotta mix those eggs into it and with it. But it also calls for vanilla extract, which I don't have currently. So I'm going to kind of improvise a little bit. I'm going to be using maple extract and a little bit of ghee, about a teaspoon worth of ghee. That should make a nice rounded, nutty texture to kind of play off the palm sugar. So anyway, that's the idea. How it will look when I'm done with it, I'm not sure. But this is a recipe by Chef Vivien, so that's the recipe I'm going with. Definitely check them out for the full video. Alright, now we got it mostly broken apart. I'll make it easier to dissolve, hopefully. Okay, I got that palm sugar nicely broken down enough. I'm going to add about 30 milligrams of water, although the original recipe calls for 15. But with palm sugar, it might take a little bit more time, or a little bit more water, because palm sugar needs to soften up and dissolve. So I'm just going to put it to 4, and just keep an eye on it. The milk is about ready. While that's getting ready, I'm going to go ahead and get the eggs ready. So we got to separate these egg whites. So hopefully I can pull it off here, and then that'll be cool. Okay, so apparently it is easy enough to just separate the egg yolk using your bare hands, so I'm going to go ahead and try that. So, hard surface. Heck yeah, that works pretty well. Alrighty, so that works pretty well actually. So just kind of open your fingers a little bit. Just let the egg white kind of run through your fingers. You should be left with that egg yolk, nicely separated. And one more. Heck yeah. Alrighty, so there we have our separated egg whites and our egg yolks. So we're gonna let these egg whites come up to room temperature a little bit, and we're gonna be able to work with these egg yolks for the cream and glaze part. So, and here's our caramel using the palm sugar. Kind of move that around, just let that. One thing about palm sugar doing this way, it can go from a perfect nice brown color to burnt if you're not careful. So I just had the idea to try it this way because I want to include palm sugar in more recipes, so that's the idea here. So we have our caramel, and now I'm just going to transfer it into this pan. I'm just going to kind of whirl that around the pan just like I would for oil. And I'm using a cast iron skillet because that's the best I have for this kind of presentation. And then that's all good now. Set that aside. Okay, so here we have the cinnamon, the caramel part. I don't think I recorded that, but I basically transferred that caramel to this cast iron skillet. And I'm using a cast iron skillet because that's the best I really have for this kind of presentation. And now I just need to make the marmalade, but make the meringue. There it is, the meringue. That's the word I'm looking for here. Alright, so the next thing we have to do is we have to put about 300 milligrams of sugar into this bowl, and as soon as we have that, we have to start working it, otherwise the sugar will actually cook the eggs, so we gotta kind of move with it, so. And then, yeah, I'm going to be putting some of that ghee and a little bit of this maple syrup in there once that's good and incorporated, so. And then we'll be adding the milk to it, which is ready to go when I'm ready for it. And yeah, it should just be like clockwork. And now we need to get the oven going. We need the oven at 360. Alrighty, so that'll be ready to go once we have the meringue. And that's basically what this big pan is for. It's to hold the water, but I'm kind of using it for everything at the moment. But yeah. And then and since I'm using cast iron for that water part, I'm going to take I have a screen that I can use to put it over it so it's not in direct contact with the water. That should be good. And so yeah, I'll be back when this is good. Okay, so now we brought the cream and glaze up to about 179 degrees Fahrenheit or 82 degrees Celsius. Now we're going to transfer it into this ice bath because that's the easiest way to slow down the cooking process. So I'm going to transfer that ever so slightly in here and then continue working it until it chills down, and then we'll be able to use it. Okay, we are at the egg white part. So now we're just going to mix it into this bowl. I have this hand mixer. If you have a stand-up mixer, that makes it a lot easier, but I don't have one of those. So. And if you just have to whisk it by hand, it'll take you about maybe the same amount of time, but just a lot more vigorous just a lot more vigorous whisking, and you might want to kind of work out for that a little bit or stretch out. So for this part, we're just going to hand mix it until it starts to foam up. Then we're going to add about a teaspoon and a half worth of sugar to it. So not about 20 grams of sugar. And then we should go from there. And now we got this to room temperature, about 75 degrees, because it mixes a lot easier once it's at room temperature. Alright, let's lock and load. Okay. Alrighty, so now we just start whisking at a low speed. Now we'll just add the rest of it. There's not that much, so we'll just throw that in there. Now to the maximum. Maximum overdrive. Alrighty, so here's our meringue. Hopefully it is good. Hopefully it's good enough to stand up. So now I gotta transfer it to this pan, and then I gotta kind of shape it into the island part. So I just need like a cake knife, and that should be good. I'm gonna transfer it into here and then work from there. Alrighty, so here is what we have. And now I'm going to take a little bit of that foil, just cover it ever so lightly, and then we'll be able to get to it. Making the floating isle part, so I'll be back. Okay, so here is what we have. This is freshly baked meringue. Now I'm just letting it cool for about 15 minutes or so. Okay, so here we have Île Flottante, floating island. Got that custard. Now we're just kind of spoon it in there. And here we have Island Île Flottante, floating island. And it is indeed floating. Now the next step is to serve it up. And yeah, so I'm just going to treat it like I'm just going to cut it like a pie and then put it on a plate and then use a little bit more of that cream and glass and then, yeah. Alrighty, so here we have Île Flottante, floating island with a little bit of, and I'm glad I didn't pour that whole thing in there, otherwise this just makes a nice little pool for itself to float into. Alright, let's try it out. It's like cutting into a marshmallow. It's actually really nice. Using the palm sugar for caramel was a neat idea because it actually has a nice rich flavor, and then that custard is cutting through nicely. And yeah. Another way you can make this is you can make the meringue into canals, which is another way I've seen it done. But to me, using Chef Vivien's idea was a lot seemed like a better introduction to it, and just rather than worrying about having to get the canals just right, and But if I ever do it a second time, I might try the canal version just to see how that goes. Because making the meringue isn't too bad. So, but yeah. All right, Île Flottante, check it out. Thank you for watching. My name is Rourke, Cook with Dragons. We're exploring a lot of food. See you next time and keep on feeding the fire.